The room is small. 2 chairs, a low table, a portfolio, and across from you, someone who is going to decide whether you get this job. They look at your resume, they look at you, and then they say, "So, tell me about yourself." For many English learners, a job interview is the highest stakes conversation they will ever have in English. Every word is weighed, every pause is noticed, and unlike everyday conversation, you only get one chance to make the right impression. Today, we learn how to handle it. By the end of this episode, you will know how to introduce yourself professionally, answer the most common interview questions with confidence, and talk about your experience and your strengths clearly, naturally, in English. This is day 21 of your 30-day English journey. Day 21. 9 days left. You have just entered Phase 3, B1 Intermediate. The pace is faster now. The sentences are longer. The vocabulary is richer. This is the level where your listening fluency becomes real, where you stop translating and start understanding. 9 more days to get there. Sarah is back in Brooklyn. She spent 4 days in Boston, walking, drawing, thinking. She met Eleanor at a cafe in the South End. She talked about Granville, Ohio, and maple trees, and the version of herself who didn't know yet what was coming. And then she came home. And 2 days after she got back, her phone rang. It was a design studio in Manhattan. They had seen her portfolio, the same work she had submitted for the Brooklyn Creative Awards. They wanted to meet her. The interview was scheduled for Monday morning. It was Sunday evening. Let's go. The cafe was on a corner in Carroll Gardens, one of those places that seems to exist slightly outside of time. Small, warmly lit, with fogged-up windows and 2 small tables outside on the pavement, sheltered under a dark green awning. The kind of cafe where the chairs don't match and the music is always just quiet enough. Sarah and Maya had been sitting there for almost 2 hours. On the table between them, 2 empty coffee cups, a shared slice of lemon cake with 1 bite left, Sarah's open laptop showing her portfolio, and a folded piece of paper with Maya's handwritten questions on it. Maya picked up the paper and cleared her throat dramatically. "So," she said, in a voice meant to sound professional and important, "Miss Chen, tell me about yourself." Sarah straightened in her chair. She had answered this question 4 times already tonight. "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a freelance graphic designer based in Brooklyn. For the past 4 years, I've been working with clients on branding, editorial design, and digital campaigns, and recently I submitted a portfolio for the Brooklyn Creative Awards, which is how your studio found my work." Maya lowered the paper. "Okay, that was actually really good. Was it too fast?" "No, it was confident. You sounded like you knew what you were talking about." "I do know what I'm talking about." "Right, but yesterday you sounded like you were apologizing for existing." Sarah laughed. Outside, a couple walked past on the pavement, a dog on a leash, a paper bag from the grocery store. The street was quiet and orange-lit, the kind of Brooklyn evening that makes you feel like everything is exactly where it should be. To apply for a job means to formally submit your information, your resume, your portfolio, your cover letter, as a candidate for a position. Sarah had applied for this role 2 weeks ago. She hadn't expected to hear back so quickly. Maya consulted her list. "Okay, next one. What are your greatest strengths?" Sarah took a breath. "I think my greatest strength is that I pay close attention to detail, not just in the design itself, but in understanding what a client actually needs, which isn't always what they say they need. I ask a lot of questions before I start anything." Maya made a small approving noise. And your weaknesses? I take too long on things sometimes. I revise more than necessary. Is that true, or are you just saying it because it sounds humble? Both, Sarah said. Maya picked up the last bite of lemon cake. You're going to be fine, she said. You know this work. You've been doing it for 4 years. Just be the person who knows what she's doing, not the person who's hoping they won't notice she's nervous. Sarah looked at her laptop screen, the portfolio page that had caught the studio's attention. A brand identity project she had worked on for 3 months. Clean, considered, intentional. I know, she said. I know. They sat together for a little longer until the cafe began to fill up with the Sunday evening crowd and the music got slightly louder. Maya paid for the cake. Sarah left the tip. Outside on the pavement, Maya gave her a brief, firm hug. Text me the second it's over. I will. And wear the cream sweater. Sarah smiled. Already planned. Monday morning. Sarah was up at 7, earlier than she needed to be, but sleep had become difficult sometime around 4 in the morning. She made coffee, stood at the window, watched a gray pigeon navigate the fire escape across the street. She took a long shower. She ironed the cream sweater, the one she had bought on Newberry Street the month before, though she realized now it was actually from the shopping trip in day 15, before Boston. It didn't matter. It was the right sweater. She looked at herself in the mirror for a long moment. Her resume was a single page, a clean, well-designed document that listed her education, her experience, and her skills. A resume is the written summary of your professional background that you bring to an interview. It should be accurate, legible, and, if you're a designer, it should also look good. Sarah's did. She put 3 printed copies into a slim folder, then her portfolio, then her notebook. She took the subway from Carroll Street into Manhattan, the F train, express after J Street. She stood in the car and read through her notes, not because she had forgotten anything, but because having something to look at felt better than having nothing to look at. The train emerged above ground briefly near Smith and Ninth, and for a moment she could see all of Lower Manhattan spread out ahead of her, the buildings catching the low November light, the harbor in the far distance, gray and flat. She thought, I've been doing this for 4 years. I know how to do this. The train went back underground. 22 minutes later, she was in the Flatiron District. The studio was on the 5th floor of a building on West 22nd Street, a converted loft space with exposed brick walls, tall windows, and a long communal table covered in proofs and printouts. The receptionist offered her water. She said yes. She sat in a low chair near the window and looked at the street below. A first impression, the initial opinion someone forms of you in the first moments of meeting, is made faster than most people realize. Sarah knew this. She sat up straight. She kept her face open and calm. Sarah? The woman who came to greet her was perhaps 40, with close-cropped dark hair and the kind of energy that suggested she moved quickly and thought faster. Her name was Nina. She was the creative director. They went to a smaller room at the back. 2 chairs, a low table, natural light. Nina didn't look at her phone once during the interview. Sarah noticed that and felt grateful for it. Tell me about yourself, Nina said. Sarah told her. The same version she had practiced with Maya the night before, but slightly different now. Warmer, less rehearsed. She talked about starting out doing logos for small businesses in Brooklyn, how that had grown into larger branding projects, how she thought about design as a form of translation, taking something complex and making it instantly readable. Nina nodded. What do you think makes someone a good fit for a studio like ours? To be a good fit means to match well with a team, a role, or a company's way of working. It isn't only about skills, it's about how you think, how you communicate, how you handle feedback. I think it's the ability to hold two things at once, Sarah said. Your own point of view and the client's. You have to care about the work and be willing to let go of it at the same time. Nina looked at her for a moment. Then she opened Sarah's portfolio on the table between them. She turned pages slowly, stopped at the brand identity project. This one, she said. Tell me the story behind it. Sarah told her. The client, the brief, the 3 directions she had explored before landing on this one, the version the client had almost chosen instead, and why she had pushed back. Nina listened without interrupting. When Sarah finished, Nina closed the portfolio and sat back in her chair. We'll be in touch, she said. We have 2 more candidates to meet this week, but I want you to know this is a strong body of work. Thank you, Sarah said. And she meant it. Not as a filler, not as a reflex, but as a real response to something real being said. The elevator took a long time to arrive. Sarah stood in the hallway and looked at the framed prints on the wall, past projects from the studio, clean work, considered work, the kind of work she wanted to be part of. Outside, West 22nd Street was cold and bright. She stood on the pavement for a moment, not moving. The city moved around her. A delivery bike, 2 men in suits, a woman walking a small terrier. Everything was exactly as loud as it always was. She took out her phone and texted Maya. Done. I think it went well. She said, strong body of work. That means something, right? Maya replied in 11 seconds. That means something. Call me. Sarah smiled and put her phone away. She would call in a minute. First, she just wanted to stand here for a moment, on this particular pavement, on this particular Monday morning, feeling exactly this particular feeling. To follow up after an interview means to contact the company within 1 or 2 days. A short, professional email thanking them for their time and reaffirming your interest in the position. It is a small gesture, but it matters. Sarah already knew what she would write. She had done everything she could do. The rest was waiting. She started walking toward the subway. The Flatiron Building was visible at the end of the block. That strange, narrow wedge of stone that had stood on this corner for over 100 years, watching the city change around it. She had always liked that building. She passed it slowly, looked up once, and kept going. Today, Sarah had her interview at a design studio in Manhattan's Flatiron District. The night before, she sat with Maya at a corner cafe in Carroll Gardens, practicing her answers, finishing a slice of lemon cake, and remembering that she already knew what she was doing. On Monday morning, she took the F train into the city, walked into a 5th-floor loft with exposed brick walls, and sat across from Nina, the creative director. She talked about her work, clearly, confidently, in English. And Nina said, strong body of work. Now she waits. Let's review today's vocabulary. To apply for a job. To formally submit your materials as a candidate for a position. A resume. A written summary of your education, experience, and skills, also called a CV. Qualifications. The skills, experience, and education that make you suitable for a role. A first impression. The opinion someone forms of you in the first moments of meeting. Strengths and weaknesses. Your positive qualities and the areas where you could improve. A common interview topic. To be a good fit. To match well with a role, team, or company culture. Relevant experience. Work history that directly relates to the job you're applying for. to follow up, to contact someone after a meeting or interview to express continued interest. A job offer, a formal proposal inviting you to work for a company. A portfolio, a curated collection of your best work that demonstrates your skills and range. Day 21 done. If you finished today's episode, type Day 21 done in the comments. And I want to know, have you ever had a job interview in English? What was the hardest question? Tell me below. Tomorrow is day 22. Sarah gets a call and she has to make a decision, saying yes, saying no, asking for more time. Making decisions and expressing uncertainty in English is a skill of its own, and tomorrow we practice it together. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Today, we talk about something that happens to everyone, in every language, in every life. You have a choice to make, and you don't know what to do. You can see both sides. You understand the reasons for each one, but understanding the reasons doesn't make it easier. It might even make it harder. And in English, how do you talk about that? How do you say what you're feeling when you're stuck between two things? How do you explain a decision to someone else or even to yourself? Today, you're going to learn. Think about where you started. Day 1. Day 1, a simple morning in New York. You are at A1. You could understand simple words, short sentences, slow speech. Now it's day 22, phase 3, B1 intermediate. You are listening to a story told at natural speed about complex emotions, about inner conflict, about making a real decision. And you understand it. That is not luck. That is 22 days of showing up. That is what listening fluency feels like when it begins to arrive. This series exists for one reason: to take you from A1 to B1 through listening, through stories told at a pace you can follow, with words that stay with you. Every episode is one more step, and today's step is one of the most important ones. Hello, and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 22 of your 30-day English journey. 8 more days after today. You are almost there. Today is Wednesday morning, 2 days after Sarah's job interview. She has been waiting, and then her phone buzzes. Let's begin. It is 7:42 in the morning. Sarah is in her kitchen, still in her pajamas. She has a mug of coffee in both hands, the way she always holds it when it's cold outside. She picks up her phone to check the time. There is an email. The sender is Nina Park. Subject line, following up on our conversation. Sarah puts the mug down. She reads the email slowly. Then she reads it again. Dear Sarah, it was wonderful to meet you on Monday. We were impressed by your portfolio and the way you talked about your work. We'd love to offer you the full-time position of senior graphic designer. Please let me know if you'd like to discuss further. We hope to hear from you soon. Sarah sets the phone face down on the counter. She picks up her coffee again. She looks out the window at the November sky. Gray and low, the kind that means rain is coming. She needed to weigh her options. To weigh your options means to carefully think about all the choices you have before making a decision. You look at each one. You consider what you gain and what you lose. Like a scale, you put one thing on each side and see which is heavier. Sarah had 2 options. Option 1, say yes. A full-time job, stable income every month, a real title, a team. Option 2, say no. Stay freelance. Keep the life she had built carefully over 4 years. She thought about the pros and cons. The pros and cons of something are the advantages and disadvantages, the good things and the bad things about a choice. What are the pros and cons is one of the most useful questions in English when you are trying to decide something. She poured more coffee. She didn't drink it. She just stood there, in the quiet kitchen, with the gray sky outside and the email still waiting on her phone. An hour later, Sarah was dressed and heading out for a walk. She needed air. She needed to move. She pulled open her apartment door and almost walked directly into Priya. Priya was standing in the hallway with a large tote bag over one shoulder and a thermos in her hand. She was wearing an orange scarf, the bright kind she always chose even in November. "Sarah," she said, "you look like you're carrying something heavy." Sarah laughed a little. "Is it that obvious?" They stood in the hallway, the narrow, familiar hallway with its old carpet and the window at the end that let in pale morning light, and Sarah told her. The interview, the email, Nina's offer. Priya listened without interrupting. That was one of the things Sarah liked about her. "So, what does your gut say?" Priya asked when Sarah finished. To go with your gut means to follow your instinct, the deep feeling inside you before your brain starts making lists and arguing with itself. Your gut is not logic. It is something older than logic. And sometimes it knows things your brain hasn't figured out yet. "My gut says," Sarah started. Then she stopped. "I don't know. I keep going back and forth." "You're second-guessing yourself," Priya said. To second-guess yourself means to doubt a decision you've already started to make, to keep questioning it, keep going back, keep wondering if you're wrong. It's when your mind won't stay still, when every answer immediately produces a new question. "Yes," Sarah said, "exactly that." Priya shifted the bag on her shoulder. "Go for your walk," she said. "Sometimes the answer comes when you stop trying to find it." She headed toward the stairs. Then she turned back. "But Sarah, whatever you decide, make sure it's what you want. Not what sounds impressive. Not what someone else would choose. What you want." The stairwell door closed behind her. Sarah stood alone in the hallway for a moment. Then she walked toward the elevator. Prospect Park in November. The last of the leaves, dark orange, deep rust, a few still yellow, were on the ground now, wet from last night's rain. The paths were mostly empty. A man walking a dog in the distance. 2 joggers passing in the other direction. Quiet. Sarah walked slowly. Her hands were in her coat pockets. Her breath was faint white in the cold air. She needed to think it through. To think something through means to consider every part of a decision carefully, to not rush, to follow each thought to its end before moving to the next one. You think it through, all the way through, from the beginning to the end. She thought about the job. Full-time meant structure, a desk, a schedule, meetings on Tuesday mornings, projects assigned to her, not chosen by her, income that arrived every 2 weeks, reliable as the subway, mostly. She thought about what she had now. Freelance meant choosing her own clients, saying yes to the work that excited her and no to the work that didn't. It meant some months were harder. It meant the uncertainty was real. But it also meant, and she had to be honest with herself here, it meant she woke up every morning and the day was hers. She stopped on the path. A gust of wind moved through the bare trees above her, a low sound, like something being decided. She thought about why she had come to Brooklyn in the first place. 23 years old, a portfolio with 12 pieces in it, a sublease in a third-floor apartment that she could barely afford. She had not come here for a desk in someone else's office. She had come here to build something of her own. She had been building it slowly for 4 years. She knew this was a turning point. A turning point is a moment when something important changes, when the direction of a story or a life shifts. It doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes a turning point looks like a woman standing alone on a path in a park, her hands in her pockets, the leaves wet at her feet. She started walking again. By the time Sarah got home, it was past noon. She made a bowl of soup, the simple kind, just broth and noodles, and sat at her desk while she ate it. She opened her laptop. She looked at Nina's email again. Then she opened a new message. She had made up her mind. To make up your mind means to finally decide, to stop going back and forth and land on one answer. You have been weighing and second-guessing and thinking it through. And then, at some point, something settles. You know. Sarah knew. It wasn't that the job wasn't good. It was. Nina was sharp, the studio was serious, the offer was fair. But as she had walked through Prospect Park, past the bare trees, past the joggers, past the parts of Brooklyn she had learned by heart, she had kept asking herself one question: does this fit? And the honest answer was, not quite. She thought about the clients she had worked with this year: a small restaurant in Cobble Hill, an independent bookstore in Park Slope, a clothing brand run by 2 sisters from Queens. Projects she had found herself, problems she had solved in her own way, on her own timeline. She thought about what it felt like on a Thursday afternoon when a client said, "This is exactly what we were looking for," and she knew she had gotten there because she had been free to try things, to fail quietly, to start again. A full-time role, she realized, would take that away. Not cruelly, just quietly, slowly, the way winter takes the light. She loved the freedom of freelance not as something careless, but as something she had chosen deliberately. She had earned it, and she had learned, in 4 years of Brooklyn winters and uncertain months and late nights with a client's project open on this same desk, that the work felt most like hers when the choices were hers too. To be a good fit means to match well, to suit a role, a place, a life. The job was good, but it was not a good fit. Not for her. Not right now. She began to type. Dear Nina, thank you so much for your offer. I'm genuinely honored. After careful thought, I've decided to continue with my freelance work for now. It's the path that feels right for where I am. I have great respect for what you're building, and I hope our paths cross again. She read it once. Then she committed to the decision. She pressed send. To commit to a decision means to choose it fully and stop looking back. You don't leave the door open. You don't keep one foot on each side. You make the choice and you trust it. Sarah closed the laptop. Outside, the November sky had cleared a little, a pale gray that was almost white, almost light. She sat at her desk and looked at it for a moment. She felt, very simply, like herself. Today, Sarah received an offer that many people would have said yes to immediately, and she said no, not because the opportunity wasn't real, but because she understood what she wanted more clearly than ever. That kind of clarity is earned. It doesn't come from logic alone. It comes from knowing yourself. Let's review today's vocabulary. Weigh your options. To carefully think about all the choices you have before deciding. She needed to weigh her options before responding to the offer. Pros and cons. The advantages and disadvantages of something. She thought about the pros and cons of taking the job. Go with your gut. To follow your instinct or inner feeling, not just logic. Priya told her to go with her gut. Second-guess yourself. To doubt a decision you've already started to make. To keep going back and forth. She kept second-guessing herself all morning. Think it through. To consider all parts of a decision carefully without rushing. She went for a walk to think it through. A turning point, an important moment when something changes significantly. Standing in the park, she knew it was a turning point. Make up your mind. To finally decide, after going back and forth. By the time she got home, she had made up her mind. A good fit. To match well with a role or situation. The job was good, but it wasn't a good fit for her right now. Commit to a decision. To choose fully and stop looking back. She pressed send. She committed to the decision. Go back and forth. To keep changing between two options without deciding. She went back and forth all morning before finally choosing. If you finished today's episode, type Day 22 done in the comments. We are at Day 22 of 30. 8 more episodes. You are in the final stretch. Tomorrow is Day 23. Sarah has a story to tell. The best trip she ever took, and the words you need to talk about travel, memory, and the places that stay with you. See you tomorrow. Have you ever been somewhere for the first time and felt immediately that you already knew this place? Not déjà vu, not confusion, just a feeling. Like a door opening somewhere inside you. Talking about travel in English is not only about vocabulary. It is about how you tell the story, how you put someone else inside the moment with you, how you make them feel the morning air, hear the sounds of an unfamiliar street, understand why that particular trip mattered. Today, you will learn how to tell a travel story in English. Not just describe a place, but make it real. Think about where you were on day 1. You were learning simple present tense sentences. Short, slow, clear. Sarah wakes up. She makes coffee. She goes to work. Today is Day 23. Phase 3. B1 Intermediate. The story you are about to follow is told mostly in the past tense, with complex sentences, layered emotions, and real detail, and you are following it, without translating, without stopping. That is not where you started. That is how far you have come. Every episode of this series moves you one step closer to listening fluency, the ability to understand natural English without translating, without stopping, without stress. That is what this is for. Hello and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is Day 23 of your 30-day English journey. Today is Friday, 2 days after Sarah turned down Nina's job offer. She got a message from Maya this morning. Coffee? Haven't talked properly in ages. And now they are sitting together at a small cafe in Park Slope, 2 cups of coffee between them. Maya is asking the question Sarah knew was coming. Let's go. The cafe was small and warm. A window along the front wall let in pale winter light. The tables were close together, the kind of place where everyone speaks quietly without thinking about it. Maya had her coat on the back of her chair and both hands wrapped around her cup. She had listened to the whole story, the interview, the email from Nina, the walk through Prospect Park, the decision. "You turned it down," Maya said, not a question, a confirmation. "I turned it down." Maya nodded slowly. "Are you okay with that?" Sarah thought about it for a moment, genuinely thought about it, the way you do when someone asks a question you actually want to answer honestly. "More than okay," she said. "It made me think about something. The reason I came here in the first place." Maya tilted her head. "Tell me." Sarah wrapped both hands around her own cup. She looked at the window, at the street outside, at a man walking past with a newspaper under his arm. Then she looked back at Maya. "Have I ever told you about my first trip to New York?" Maya shook her head. "Then let me tell you," Sarah smiled. "It's a short story, but it's the best trip I ever took." She set off on a Tuesday morning in late August. To set off means to begin a journey, to leave a place and start going somewhere. Sarah set off from Columbus, Ohio, on a Greyhound bus. One bag, a sketchbook, enough money for 3 days if she was careful. She was 22 years old. She had just finished university. She had no job, no apartment, no real plan for what came next. She also had no itinerary. An itinerary is a detailed schedule or plan for a trip. It lists the places you will visit, the times you will arrive, the hotels where you will sleep. Sarah had none of that. She had a bus ticket, a hostel address written on a piece of paper, and 11 hours to think. The bus pulled into Port Authority at 7 in the evening. Sarah had never seen anything like it. The size of the terminal, the noise, people moving in every direction, none of them slowing down. Announcements from overhead speakers, voices in 5 different languages, the smell of the city already coming through the doors. She stood still for about 30 seconds. Then she picked up her bag and walked outside. She took the subway. She had studied the map on her phone, but got confused at the transfer point. A woman in a yellow jacket told her which train to take. Sarah said thank you and meant it more than usual. She ended up in Brooklyn almost by accident. The man sitting next to her on the train had said, with complete certainty, "Brooklyn is where the real stuff is." So she stayed on the train past Manhattan. She trusted a stranger on a subway, and it turned out to be one of the better decisions she had ever made. She came up out of the station into the early evening air. Brownstone buildings on both sides of the street, trees still green in August, people sitting on front steps, a woman carrying groceries, a child on a bicycle. Sarah started to wander. To wander means to walk without a specific plan or direction. You go where you feel like going. You turn left because something caught your eye. You slow down because a smell or a sound pulled your attention. She wandered for 2 hours. She had no destination, and it did not bother her at all. At some point, on a quiet block she had not intended to walk down, she stumbled upon a small park tucked between 2 buildings. To stumble upon something means to find it completely by accident. You were not looking for it, you were not expecting it, but there it was. The park had 3 benches, a large oak tree, and a view of a red brick building with fire escapes running up every floor. Nobody else was there. Sarah sat on a bench and opened her sketchbook. She drew the building. She drew the tree. She sat there until it was too dark to see. She woke up early the next morning. The hostel room was small and the mattress was not comfortable, but she had slept well anyway. She was out on the street by 6:30. Brooklyn in the early morning was something she had not expected. Quiet in a way that felt inhabited, not empty. The light came in at a low angle, warm and sideways. A bakery was open. A man was sweeping the pavement in front of his shop. Pigeons walked along a ledge above a closed laundromat. She walked toward the water. She followed the feeling more than the map. She reached the Brooklyn Bridge at 7 in the morning. She walked onto the pedestrian path and kept going until she was at the center point, above the river. She stopped. She was in awe of everything she could see. To be in awe of something means to feel deeply amazed and moved by it, not just impressed, moved, the kind of feeling that quiets everything else for a moment. The Manhattan skyline was in front of her. The East River was below. Behind her was Brooklyn, its rooftops and water towers catching the morning light. She took it all in. To take something in means to look at it carefully and let yourself really feel it. Not a quick glance, a moment of full attention. You absorb it. You let it matter. And as she stood there, the city came alive around her. To come alive means to fill with energy and movement after being quiet or still. The early morning stillness was breaking. More people arrived on the bridge. Cyclists passed. A tourist took a photograph. The river caught more light. New York was waking up, and she was watching it happen. She did not move for a long time. And then, very quietly, she thought something she had not planned to think. I want to live here. Not the thought of someone making a plan, not logic, not a list of reasons, just a clear, simple knowing. The way you sometimes recognize a piece of music before you can name it. She turned and walked back to Brooklyn. She made the most of every hour that day. To make the most of something means to use it as fully as possible, to not let any of it go to waste. She visited every street she wanted to see, ate at a diner where the coffee came in a thick ceramic mug, sat by the water at sunset, and filled 6 pages of her sketchbook. She did all of it deliberately, the way you do things when you feel, somewhere, that this is important. Maya had been listening without moving. Her coffee had gone a little cold. "And then?" she asked. "And then I went home," Sarah said, got back on the bus, sat in my bedroom in Ohio, and started researching apartments in Brooklyn. Maya laughed. Just like that. Just like that. That trip had taken her off the beaten path. Off the beaten path means away from the well-known places, the tourist routes, the things everyone goes to see. Sarah had found the park by accident, walked streets she had not read about anywhere, eaten at places with no reviews, and that was exactly what had made it real. That trip had left a lasting impression on her. A lasting impression is a feeling or memory that stays with you for a long time. It does not fade. It shapes how you see things long after the trip is over. Sarah's first trip to New York had lasted 3 days. It had lasted, in another sense, 4 years. It was still lasting, right now, in this cafe, in this conversation, in the decision she had made on Wednesday. "That's why you turned it down," Maya said, quietly. "I came here because I wanted to build something of my own," Sarah said. "A full-time position at someone else's studio is a good thing. It just wasn't my thing. Not right now. Maya nodded. She picked up her cup, realized it was cold, and put it back down. Then she smiled. "You know what?" she said. "I think you should go on another trip." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Not to decide anything," Maya said. "Just because you clearly need to get on a bus with no plan and see what happens." Sarah laughed, a real laugh, the kind that surprised her a little. Outside the cafe window, the winter street was bright and cold. The city moved past the way it always did, familiar, chosen, hers. Today, Sarah told Maya about the best trip she ever took. Not the most expensive, not the most carefully planned, the one that left a lasting impression, the one that changed what she did next. The best trips are often like that. Let's review today's vocabulary. Set off, to begin a journey, to leave and start going somewhere. She set off on a Tuesday morning with one bag and a sketchbook. Itinerary, a detailed plan or schedule for a trip. She had no itinerary, no hotels booked, no schedule, no plan. Wander, to walk without a fixed plan or direction. She wandered through Brooklyn for 2 hours, going wherever she felt like. Stumble upon, to find something by accident, without looking for it. She stumbled upon a small park tucked between 2 buildings. Be in awe of, to feel deeply amazed and moved by something. She was in awe of everything she could see from the bridge. Take in, to look at something carefully and absorb it fully. She took in the skyline, the river, the morning light. Come alive, to fill with energy and movement after being quiet. The city came alive around her as the morning began. Make the most of, to use something as fully as possible, to not waste any of it. She made the most of every hour of that last day. Off the beaten path, away from tourist spots, in less known places. She stayed off the beaten path and found the real city. A lasting impression, a memory or feeling that stays with you for a long time. That trip left a lasting impression on her. She still feels it today. If you finish today's episode, type Day 23 done in the comments. We are at Day 23 of 30. 7 more episodes. You are almost at the end of this journey. Tomorrow is Day 24. Sarah is going to share her opinion about something everyone has a view on. In my opinion, social media is. You'll find out what she thinks, and you'll learn how to express your own opinions clearly and confidently in English. See you tomorrow. Here's something interesting. Everyone has opinions. You have them about your food, your friends, your neighborhood, the news. Opinions are everywhere. But there is a difference between having an opinion and being able to express it clearly in English. When you have a strong feeling about something and you open your mouth to speak, what happens? For many learners, the words disappear. You know what you think, but you do not know how to say it, not in a way that sounds confident, natural, real. That is what today is about. By the end of this episode, you will have 10 phrases that let you express your opinions clearly, agreeing, disagreeing, seeing both sides, and landing on a conclusion. These are the phrases that turn a feeling into a real conversation. Before we begin, I want you to notice something. Think about Day 1. At A1, your vocabulary was built for survival. You learned names, places, basic actions, a chair, a window, a morning, simple words for a simple start. Now you are at day 24, phase 3, B1, intermediate. Look at what today's vocabulary asks you to do. You are not naming things anymore. You are arguing a position. You are acknowledging a counterpoint. You are holding your ground or changing your mind. That is not A1 vocabulary. That is B1 thinking. And you are here. This is what the series is built for. Every episode moves you one step closer to listening fluency, the ability to hear natural English and understand it without translating, without stopping, without stress. Today is one of those steps. Let's take it. It is Saturday morning. Sarah is at her desk. A cup of coffee sits beside her laptop, still warm. Outside her window, June light falls bright and early across the rooftops. Brooklyn is quieter on Saturdays. She likes that. She has been working since 8. A freelance project, a new logo for a small bookshop in Park Slope. She finished the first draft 20 minutes ago, and she is happy with it. Clean lines, warm colors. The client will like it. She opens Instagram. She needs to post. This is part of the job, showing her work, staying visible, letting potential clients find her. She uploads a photo of the logo on a white background, adds a short caption, tags the client, presses share. Done. Then she scrolls. Just for a moment, she thinks, just to see what is new. 15 minutes pass. She sees a designer in Berlin with 50,000 followers whose work looks effortless. She sees someone from high school who just bought a house. She sees an ad for a productivity app. She sees a post about the perfect morning routine with 3,200 comments. She puts her phone face down on the desk. In my opinion, she thinks, that was a waste of time. Let's learn that phrase. In my opinion. This is one of the most common ways to introduce an opinion in English. It is direct but also polite. It signals that what follows is your view, not a fact. You are not telling someone they are wrong. You are telling them how you see it. In my opinion, social media is useful for work. In my opinion, that movie was too long. In my opinion, this neighborhood has changed. Her second thought comes a moment later, quieter. I tend to think this is a me problem, not a platform problem. I tend to think. This phrase is softer than, in my opinion. It suggests you have considered something carefully, but you hold the view lightly. You are open to being wrong. I tend to think social media is just a tool. I tend to think people are more complicated than their posts suggest. Sarah closes her laptop. She puts on her shoes. She needs fresh air, and she needs it now. Prospect Park is 20 minutes from Sarah's apartment on foot. She walks fast, the way she always does, hands in her jacket pockets and eyes forward. The trees along the path are dense with summer green. Families are already spreading blankets on the grass. A loose line of cyclists moves along the main road. Sarah slows down near a bench along the central path. Martin is there. She recognizes him immediately, her neighbor from the 3rd floor, the retired architect. He is sitting very still, looking down at something in his hands. As she gets closer, she sees what it is, a small camera, and he is carefully, slowly loading a roll of film into it. Martin, she says. He looks up. He smiles, unhurried. Sarah, good morning. Is that a film camera? It is, a Leica from 1972. He holds it out briefly so she can see, then returns to the film. I come here every Saturday morning. The light between the trees is different depending on the season. I have been photographing this park for 11 years. Sarah sits down on the edge of the bench. Do you post the photos somewhere? Instagram? Martin finishes loading the film. He closes the back of the camera with a small, precise click. No, he says simply. I print them. Some of them. The ones that deserve it. To be honest, Sarah did not expect that answer. To be honest, this phrase introduces a view that is direct, perhaps more candid than what you said before. It often signals that you are about to say something you genuinely believe, even if it is slightly uncomfortable. To be honest, I spend too much time on my phone. To be honest, I am not sure I agree with that. So nobody sees them? Sarah asks. The people in the room see them, Martin says. He picks up a small manila envelope from the bench beside him and opens it. Inside are a handful of photographs, printed on matte paper. He hands them to her one at a time. They are beautiful. A path through bare winter trees. A child feeding pigeons, slightly blurred at the edges. A puddle reflecting the arch of the park entrance, perfectly still. These are incredible, Sarah says. Martin says nothing. He raises the camera and photographs the tree line across the path. Can I ask you something? Sarah says, still holding the photographs. Do you think social media is bad? Like, genuinely? Martin lowers the camera. He considers this. I would argue that it changes the way people see things, he says. Not always for the better. When I was posting on Instagram a few years ago now, I noticed I started taking photographs for other people, for the response, not for myself. That changed what I chose to photograph. It changed what I even noticed. I would argue that this phrase is used when you want to make a stronger point, more confident than in my opinion. It implies you have reasons and you are prepared to defend them. I would argue that good design requires patience. I would argue that the platform changed the work. I get that, Sarah says, and you make a valid point. But for me, Instagram is the reason I have clients. I have gotten 2 projects this year just from people finding my page. Without it, I do not know how they would have found me. Make a valid point. This phrase is used when you acknowledge that someone else's argument is strong, even if you do not fully agree with their conclusion. It is a sign of intellectual honesty, and it makes disagreements more respectful. You make a valid point about the timeline. She made a valid point I had not considered. Martin nods. That is a real consideration, especially for someone building something independently. He pauses. On the other hand, I wonder what you lose. Attention, maybe. The ability to sit with a piece of work before showing it to the world. On the other hand, this phrase introduces the opposing view. You have just said one thing, and now you are acknowledging another side. It is essential in any balanced discussion. On the other hand, working alone can be isolating. On the other hand, moving quickly sometimes works out fine. Sarah is quiet for a moment. I'm not convinced that I lose attention, she says slowly. I think I lose time. Those are different things. I'm not convinced that. This is a polite way to disagree. You are not saying the other person is wrong. You are saying their argument has not persuaded you yet. It leaves room for the conversation to continue. I'm not convinced that more data leads to better decisions. I'm not convinced that this is the right approach. That is a good distinction, Martin says quietly. Sarah looks down at the photographs still in her hands. I can see both sides, she says, more to herself than to him. I genuinely can. It helps my work, and it also pulls me away from my own thinking in ways I do not always choose. I can see both sides. This phrase shows that you understand the complexity of an issue. You are not taking a simple position. You are acknowledging that both views have merit, and that is a sign of careful, honest thinking. I can see both sides of the argument about remote work. I can see both sides, but I think one is more practical for me. She hands the photographs back to Martin carefully, one at a time. He slides them into the envelope without looking at them. He already knows what is inside. Sarah walks home slowly. The trees cast long shadows across the path. She passes the spot near the park entrance where she walked alone last Wednesday, weighing a different kind of decision. Brooklyn keeps giving her these moments, she thinks, quiet ones, the kind you only notice if you are paying attention. By the time she reaches her street, she has come to a conclusion. Come to a conclusion. This phrase marks the end of a thinking process. You have weighed different views, considered the evidence, and arrived somewhere. It is the natural end of any good opinion discussion. After thinking it over, I came to a conclusion. We talked for an hour before we came to a conclusion. Sarah's conclusion is not dramatic. It is honest. It depends on two of the most useful words in any opinion conversation. Almost nothing is simply good or simply bad. Context matters. Purpose matters. It depends on how you use something, why you use it, and what you are willing to give up. It depends on the situation. It depends on what you want from it. It depends on who you are and what you need. Sarah sits back at her desk. She opens Instagram. She finds a photograph she took last week. The bookshop she is designing for, early morning light through the window, a stack of old books on the counter. She uploads it, writes a short caption, tags the location, presses share. Then she closes the app. No scrolling, no comparison, just the work, shown clearly and then done. In my opinion, she thinks, that is the version of this that works for me. Today, Sarah walked to Prospect Park and found Martin on a bench, loading a film camera, photographing the same park for the 11th year in a row. They disagreed. Neither one fully convinced the other. But that is what a good opinion discussion looks like, not a winner and a loser. Two people thinking clearly and leaving with more to consider. Let's review today's vocabulary. In my opinion, your direct view, stated with openness. I tend to think, a softer, more tentative opinion. To be honest, signaling a candid, genuine view. I would argue that, a stronger, more formal position. Make a valid point, acknowledging that someone else is right about something. On the other hand, introducing the opposing view. I'm not convinced that, polite, thoughtful disagreement. I can see both sides, showing you understand the complexity. It depends on. Adding nuance and conditions. Come to a conclusion. The end of a thinking process. These 10 phrases are your toolkit for any opinion conversation in English. Use them, mix them, practice saying them out loud. Tomorrow is day 25. You are 5 days from the end of this journey. I will see you tomorrow. Imagine this. You are in the middle of the most important project of the month. You are almost finished. 1 more hour, maybe less. And then your screen goes black. No warning, no error message, just black. If that has never happened to you, it will. And when it does, you will need 2 things: the ability to fix the problem or find help, and the English to explain what went wrong. Today, you get both. Problems happen. In English, in life, every day. A plan falls apart. A machine stops working. Something you counted on is suddenly gone. The question is not whether you will face problems. The question is whether you know how to respond to them, calmly, clearly, in English. By the end of this episode, you will have 10 phrases for exactly that: describing a problem, troubleshooting, asking for help, and finding a way through. Before we begin, I want you to notice something about today. Think back to the first week of this series. At A1, you needed time with every sentence. You paused, you replayed, you translated word by word, then tried to hold the meaning together. That was real work, and it was the right work for day 1. Now you are at day 25, 5 days from the end of this journey. And right now you are following this, a natural story, told at a natural pace, with complex sentences and layered vocabulary, without stopping. You may not even notice you are doing it. That is what listening fluency feels like when it arrives. Not dramatic, just quiet and present. This series exists for exactly this moment. 30 days of listening, one story at a time, from A1 to B1.
You are almost there. Let's go.
It is Sunday morning. Sarah is at her desk by 8. The apartment is quiet. Outside, Brooklyn is slow, the way it only gets on Sundays. Fewer cars, fewer voices. The particular stillness of a city that has decided, collectively, to take its time. She does not have that luxury today. The bookshop logo, the project she posted about on Instagram yesterday, needs to be delivered tomorrow morning. She is in the final stage. Colors adjusted, spacing refined, 3 variations ready for the client to choose from. 1 more hour of focused work and she will be done. She opens the file. She begins. 40 minutes later, the screen freezes. Not a crash, not an error, just stillness. The cursor stops moving. The program stops responding. Sarah waits, because sometimes these things resolve themselves. She waits another 30 seconds. Then the screen goes black. She stares at it. The laptop is plugged in. The charger light is green. She presses the power button. Nothing. She presses it again, holds it for 3 seconds. Nothing. She unplugs the charger, waits, plugs it back in. Still nothing. Her laptop has broken down. Broken down. This phrase means something stopped working, usually suddenly and completely. We use it for machines, cars, laptops, appliances, and sometimes for systems or plans. The printer broke down right before the meeting. His car broke down on the highway. The whole system broke down under pressure. Sarah sits very still. Then she picks up her phone. She searches. MacBook screen black, won't turn on. She finds a list of steps. Force restart by holding the power button for 10 seconds. She tries it. Nothing. Reset the SMC. She finds the instructions, follows them carefully. She holds 4 keys at the same time and counts to 7. She releases. She presses power. Nothing. She is trying to figure out what is wrong, working through each possibility one at a time, systematically. Figure out. This means to understand something by thinking about it carefully, or to find a solution by working through a problem step by step. I need to figure out why this keeps happening. She figured out the answer on her own. Can you help me figure out what went wrong? She tries 4 more steps from the list. After each one, she presses the power button and waits. After each one, the screen stays black. She is running out of options. Run out of. This means to have no more of something. Time, energy, money, options, patience. We ran out of coffee this morning. I'm running out of time before the deadline. She had run out of ideas for how to fix it. She puts the phone down. She knows now that this is not something she can fix herself. Whatever is wrong is inside the machine. Hardware, not software. She will need to take it somewhere. A repair shop, probably tomorrow. But tomorrow is too late. She opens the Notes app on her phone and writes a list of everything she remembers about the file. Colors, dimensions, which font, which variation the client seemed to prefer in the last email. She is trying to troubleshoot from memory, and it is not going well. Troubleshoot. This means to identify and solve problems, especially with a machine or a system. You troubleshoot by testing one thing at a time until you find what is causing the problem. The technician spent an hour troubleshooting the network. She troubleshot the issue by checking each cable separately. Then she remembers something. The file is on her laptop. But is any version of it on Google Drive? She opens Drive. She searches for the project folder. There is a version there. It is from last Tuesday, 4 days ago, before the final adjustments. Not the finished version, but something, a foundation. She gets to the bottom of the situation finally. The laptop is broken, the latest file is gone, but the project is not completely lost. That is the difference between a crisis and a problem. Get to the bottom of. This means to find the real cause of a problem, the root of it, the actual explanation underneath everything else. It took the team a week to get to the bottom of the issue. She wanted to get to the bottom of why the file had disappeared. She checks the time. It is 11:14 in the morning. The deadline is 9 tomorrow. She has today. She also does not have a working computer. Sarah stands in the hallway outside apartment 3B. She has spent 10 minutes sitting at her desk, looking at the black screen, thinking through her options. She could go to a cafe and ask to use someone's computer for an hour, which feels too uncertain. She could call a tech repair shop and ask if they do same-day service on a Sunday, which seems unlikely. She could try to rebuild the entire logo on her phone using an app, which is not a real option. Or she could knock on Priya's door. This is a last resort, not because Priya would mind, but because Sarah hates asking. She has always preferred to solve things herself first, fully, before admitting that she cannot. A last resort. A last resort is the final option you try when everything else has failed. You use it when there are no better choices left. Calling a taxi at that hour was a last resort. As a last resort, she decided to ask for help. She knocks. Priya opens the door in a yellow sweater, hair up, a cup of tea in her hand. She looks at Sarah's face and says immediately, "What happened?" Sarah explains. Laptop, black screen, deadline, Tuesday's version on Drive, 9 tomorrow morning. Priya does not hesitate. I have my old MacBook Air, 2019. It's slow, but it works. She disappears inside for 30 seconds and comes back with a silver laptop, slightly scratched at the corner, a small sticker of a sun on the lid. Take it as long as you need. Sarah looks at her. Are you sure? Go, Priya says, waving her hand toward Sarah's door. I'll bring you tea in an hour. Back at her desk, Sarah opens the borrowed laptop, logs into her Google account, opens Drive. The Tuesday file loads slowly. Priya was right about the slow part, but it loads. She can make do with this. It is not ideal, but she can work with what she has. Make do with. This means to manage with something that is not perfect or not what you wanted, because it is what you have available. We didn't have the right equipment, so we made do with what we had. She made do with the old version of the file and updated it from memory. Priya knocks at 12:30 with 2 cups of tea and sits on the edge of the couch while Sarah works. She does not talk much, which Sarah appreciates. She just sits there, drinking her tea, occasionally checking her phone, present in the way that only good friends know how to be, close enough to help, quiet enough to let you focus. Sarah works from memory. She rebuilds the final color adjustments, recreates the spacing, reconstructs the third variation she had almost finished. It takes longer than it would have on her own machine, with her own files. The software on Priya's laptop is an older version. A few tools are in different places. But she has done this work before. She knows what the logo is supposed to look like. She trusts her eye. At 6:43 in the evening, she sends the file. She sits back in her chair and breathes. A few minutes later, her phone buzzes. Priya, from down the hall. Did it work out? Sarah types back. It worked out. You saved the day. Workout. This means a situation resolves well or a plan succeeds in the end, even if it was difficult along the way. I wasn't sure it would work, but it worked out. Everything worked out better than she expected. In the end, the problem worked out on its own. Save the day. This means to do something that rescues a situation, to solve a problem at exactly the right moment. The backup file saved the day. She arrived just in time and saved the day. Sarah looks at her own laptop, still dark in the corner of the desk. She will bring it to the repair shop on Monday. She does not know yet what is wrong with it or how much it will cost. She will figure that out tomorrow. But tonight, there is one thing she knows clearly. She needs to back up her files every day, without exception. Backup. This means to make a copy of your files and save them somewhere safe, an external drive, a cloud service, so that if something goes wrong, you still have the original. I back up my files every night before I shut down. She wished she had backed up the project before it disappeared. Always back up your work. You will be glad you did. She opens Google Drive. She creates a new folder. Daily backup. She uploads every current project file. It takes 4 minutes. 4 minutes! That is all it would have taken this morning. Today, Sarah lost her latest file, ran out of options, borrowed a laptop, rebuilt a project from memory, and sent it in on time. It was not a perfect day, but it worked out, and she learned something she will not forget. Let's review today's vocabulary. Breakdown. When something stops working suddenly and completely. Figure out. To understand or solve something by thinking it through carefully. Run out of. To have no more of something. Troubleshoot. To identify and fix problems one step at a time. Get to the bottom of. To find the real cause of a problem. Back up. To save a copy of your files somewhere safe. Make do with. To manage with what you have, even if it is not ideal. A last resort. The final option when everything else has failed. Work out. When a situation resolves well in the end. Save the day. To do something that rescues a difficult situation. These phrases will help you in any conversation about problems, at work, at home, with technology, with plans that change. Problems are part of life. Now you have the English for them. Tomorrow is day 26. Sarah has one more thing to figure out. The repair shop called. The bill is higher than she expected. Tomorrow we talk about money, how to manage it, how to talk about it, and how Sarah handles a budget that did not plan for this. 5 days left. I will see you tomorrow. Her phone screen. A number. $340. She reads it twice. Money is one of those topics that people avoid in conversation, in any language. It feels private, sometimes embarrassing, sometimes complicated. But here is the truth. If you live and work in English, you will need to talk about money. You will need to say, I can't afford that right now. You will need to say, I need to cut back this month. You will need to explain a budget, describe an expense, ask about a cost. Today, you will learn how to do all of that. 10 phrases for talking about money clearly, honestly, and without stress. Before we begin, I want to point out something about where you are right now. Think about the vocabulary of the first week. Chair, morning, number, cost. These are words for things you can see and touch, things you can point to.
Today's vocabulary is different. Budget, income, set aside, live within your means. These are not objects. They are concepts, ideas about how money moves, how decisions get made, how a person plans for the future. Understanding abstract language in a second language is one of the final steps toward real fluency. At A1, this was out of reach. At day 26, you are doing it without effort. That is a significant distance to have traveled. This series has always been about one thing, taking you from A1 to B1 through listening, through real stories, real language, real pace. You are 4 days from the finish line. Let's keep going. It is Monday morning. Sarah is at her desk, Priya's laptop again, because her own is still at the repair shop on Atlantic Avenue. She dropped it off yesterday evening, after she sent the bookshop logo. The technician looked at it for 3 minutes and said, "Logic board." He would call her Monday with a quote. The call comes at 9:17 in the morning. It is not a call, it is a text message. 3 sentences. The last one, repair cost $340. Let us know how you'd like to proceed. Sarah puts the phone down on the desk. She picks it up again and reads it a second time. $340. This is an unexpected expense, not something she planned for, not something that was in her budget for this month. An unexpected expense. This is a cost that you did not plan for and did not see coming. It arrives suddenly and changes your financial picture for that week or month. The broken window was an unexpected expense. Medical bills are often an unexpected expense. She hadn't budgeted for it. It was completely unexpected. She thinks through her options. She could not fix it and buy a new laptop instead. But a new laptop, even a basic one, would cost at least $900. The math is simple. $340 is still better. She types back, "Please go ahead with the repair. When will it be ready?" 3 to 5 business days, he replies. She sets the phone down again. Then she asks herself the question she has been putting off since yesterday. Can she actually afford this? Afford. To afford something means to have enough money to pay for it without causing serious problems for yourself. We often use this word when something is possible but not entirely comfortable. I can't afford a vacation this month. Can you afford to take the time off? She wanted it, but she simply couldn't afford it right now. The honest answer is, yes, she can afford it, but only if she looks carefully at everything else. Sarah opens a file she calls the Honest Spreadsheet. She made it last October, after a month where she could not explain where her money had gone. It is a simple Google sheet, 2 columns, income and expenses, updated every Sunday evening, or supposed to be. She has missed the last 2 Sundays. She spends 20 minutes updating it now. This month's income from freelance work, $2,100. 3 projects, the bookshop logo, a small brand identity for a Williamsburg clothing store, and 1 ongoing retainer client who pays $600 a month regardless of volume. Not her best month, not her worst. Income. Your income is the money you receive regularly, from work, from clients, from any source. For a freelancer, income can vary significantly from month to month. Her income this month was lower than last month. Freelance income is not always predictable. Now the other side of the sheet. Expenses. Rent, $1,100. Utilities, $80. Phone, $45. Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, $55. Spotify, $10. Coffee shops, $60. Eating out for lunch, $120. Delivery and takeout, $85. Miscellaneous, a book, a birthday gift, a new sketchbook, $70. Total expenses, $1,625. That leaves $475. Before the $340 repair, after $135. Expenses. Your expenses are the things you spend money on: rent, food, subscriptions, transport. Regular expenses are ones you pay every month. Unexpected expenses are the ones that arrive without warning. Her monthly expenses came to just over $1,600. She listed every expense carefully before making a decision. Sarah looks at the line items one by one. Most of them are fixed: rent, phone, utilities. She cannot change those this month. But she can see two lines that have room: eating out at $120 and delivery at $85. Combined, that is $205 a month on food she did not cook herself. She is going to need to cut back. Cut back on. To cut back on something means to reduce how much of it you do or spend. You are not stopping completely, you are doing less. She decided to cut back on takeout and cook more at home. After the unexpected bill, he had to cut back on his spending. We cut back on subscriptions we weren't really using. She does not love this conclusion. She loves the cafe on her corner. She loves not having to think about dinner on a Wednesday evening when she is tired. But this month, she will cook more. That is a trade she can make. She also opens a second tab and starts building a simple budget for the rest of the month: what she can spend, on what, and how much to keep back. Budget. A budget is a plan for how you will spend and save your money over a period of time: a week, a month, a year. Having a budget does not mean you are poor. It means you are paying attention. She sat down and made a budget before the month began. The project came in over budget. A monthly budget helps you see where your money actually goes. At noon, Sarah closes the spreadsheet and calls Maya. Maya picks up on the second ring. "Hey, how's the laptop situation?" "Still at the shop. $340 to fix it." A pause on the other end. "Ouch." "Yeah. You okay?" Maya asks. "I'm fine. I looked at my numbers this morning and realized I don't actually think about this stuff as much as I should." Maya laughs, a little rueful. "Join the club. Last year, I had 2 months in a row where I genuinely could not make ends meet. Like, I had to call my mom and ask for $200. It was awful." Make ends meet. This phrase means to have just enough money to cover your basic needs and expenses. When you can't make ends meet, your expenses are higher than your income. Some months, it was hard to make ends meet. She worked 2 jobs just to make ends meet. After the rent increase, making ends meet became much harder. "What did you do?" Sarah asks. "I started actually looking at my numbers, like you did today probably." Maya pauses. "Have you ever heard of the 503020 rule?" Sarah has heard of it, but never applied it. Maya explains. 50% of your income goes to needs: rent, food, utilities. 30% goes to wants: restaurants, entertainment, clothes. 20% you put away as savings. For me, it's more like 60-30-10 in a bad month, Maya adds. But the idea is useful. Put money away. This means to save money regularly, to move it somewhere separate so you do not spend it. It suggests consistency. You do it often, a little at a time. She put money away every month, even when it wasn't much. He started putting money away for the future when he turned 30. The thing that changed for me, Maya continues, was when I started setting aside money for specific things, not just savings in general. Like, I have a fund for fabric and sewing equipment because I know that stuff breaks and needs replacing. It made me feel less panicked when something went wrong. Set aside. To set aside money means to keep a specific amount separate and reserved for a specific purpose. You are not spending it, you are saving it deliberately, with a reason in mind. She set aside $50 a month for emergencies. He set aside part of every paycheck for the trip he was planning. Sarah is quiet for a moment. I should do that for tech stuff, she says. Like, equipment breaks. I should have a fund for it. Exactly, Maya says. $30 a month. After a year, you have $360. Problem solved. They talk for a few more minutes. When Sarah hangs up, she sits with the idea for a moment. Then she opens the spreadsheet again. Sarah adds a new line at the bottom of her expenses column. Tech equipment fund, $30 a month. It is a small number. She almost did not write it because it felt too small to matter. But she thinks about what Maya said. $30 a month, 12 months, $360. That is almost exactly what today's repair costs. The math is not complicated. The habit is the hard part. She transfers $340 from her savings account into her checking account and notes it in the spreadsheet. Laptop repair, unexpected expense, June. She does not hide it in a vague category. She writes it plainly. This happened, this is what it cost, this is what she did. She looks at what remains after all of this. She will need to cut back on delivery this month. She will cook more, which she does not hate, she just never prioritizes. She will skip the expensive cafe on Saturdays and make coffee at home instead. These are not sacrifices. They are adjustments. This, she thinks, is what it means to live within your means. Not that nothing goes wrong, not that every month is comfortable and easy. It means that when something unexpected happens, you can absorb it because you have been paying attention. Live within your means. This phrase means to spend only what you can afford, to keep your expenses within the range of your income without going into debt or depending on money you do not have. Learning to live within your means is one of the most useful financial habits. She adjusted her budget so she could live within her means. It's not about being rich, it's about living within your means. She closes the spreadsheet. She closes Priya's laptop. She will return it tonight with a bottle of wine as a thank you. She stands up, stretches, and walks to the kitchen. It is 2:30 in the afternoon. She has not eaten lunch. She opens the fridge and looks at what is inside. Eggs, some leftover rice, half a red bell pepper, a block of cheese. She can make something out of this. She does not need to order anything. She starts cooking. Today, Sarah got an unexpected bill, opened her spreadsheet, called Maya, and spent an afternoon thinking carefully about money, not with panic, but with attention. She did not solve everything. She has months that are harder than this one, but she has a plan, and she has a new line in her budget that did not exist this morning. Let's review today's vocabulary. An unexpected expense, a cost you did not plan for. Afford, to have enough money to pay for something without causing problems. Income, the money you earn or receive. Expenses, the things you spend money on. Cut back on, to reduce how much you spend on something. Budget, a plan for how you will use your money. Make ends meet, to have just enough money to cover your needs. Set aside, to save a specific amount for a specific purpose. Put money away, to save money regularly, a little at a time. Live within your means, to spend only what you can afford. These 10 phrases are the foundation of any conversation about personal finance in English. Use them when you talk to a friend, explain a situation, or simply think through your own decisions. Tomorrow is day 27. Sarah is cooking more at home this week because of the budget, yes, but also because she has been thinking about something else. Small changes. The kind that add up quietly, over time, without you noticing until one day you look back and realize everything is different. Tomorrow, we talk about health and lifestyle and how small, consistent choices change a life. 4 days left. I will see you tomorrow. Have you ever made one small change to your routine? Just one, and noticed weeks later that something felt different? Not dramatic, not overnight, just quietly, steadily better. Most people think that changing their health or their lifestyle requires a big decision, a new diet, a gym membership, a complete overhaul of how they live. And because the change feels so large, they wait. They wait for the right moment, the right motivation, the right version of themselves that is finally ready. But that is not how it works. Today, you will follow Sarah through a Tuesday that proves a different idea. Small changes, done consistently, are the ones that actually last. Before we begin, I want to say something about you, specifically about today. Day 1 of this series was easy in one way. Everything was new. The novelty carried you forward. You were curious. You wanted to see what this was. Day 27 is different. The novelty is gone. The excitement of starting something has faded. What you have instead is something quieter and more valuable, a habit. You opened this episode today not because it was new, but because you decided to. You showed up. Again. That is consistency, and that is exactly what today's episode is about. You have already been living the lesson before it begins. This is the promise of this series, 30 days of listening, one story at a time, from A1 to B1. You are 3 days from the end. Let's not stop now. It is Tuesday, 6:28 in the morning. Sarah's alarm does not go off. She set it for 6:30, but she wakes up 2 minutes before it sounds, the way the body does when it is starting to expect something. She lies still for a moment, looks at the ceiling. Then she gets up. She puts on her running shoes at the door, the same ones she wore on Sunday mornings before everything got busy in March. They still fit the same way. She picks up her keys and goes outside. Prospect Park is 20 minutes on foot. She walks there, then runs for 30 minutes on the tree-lined path near the east entrance. The park at this hour is different from any other time of day. Quieter, greener, the light still soft and low through the leaves. A few other runners pass her. A man walks his dog along the edge of the grass. 2 cyclists move silently along the road. She does not listen to music. She just runs and breathes and pays attention to where she is. This is her routine now, or the beginning of one. 2 mornings this week. She is not calling it a goal. She is not tracking it in an app. She is just doing it, on the mornings when she wakes up and decides to. Routine. A routine is a set of actions or habits that you do regularly, usually in the same order or at the same time. A routine gives shape to your day. It creates structure without requiring a decision each time. Her morning routine starts with coffee and ends with opening her laptop. A consistent bedtime routine can improve the quality of your sleep. She was trying to build a new routine around exercise. She finishes her run at 7:05. She walks the last 5 minutes home slowly, letting her breathing settle. The streets of Brooklyn are waking up around her, a bodega opening its shutters, the smell of coffee from the corner cafe, a school bus idling at the end of the block. She takes it all in. Back home, she makes breakfast, scrambled eggs with the last of the red bell pepper from the fridge, a slice of toast, a cup of coffee. She eats at the kitchen table with the window open. It is a Tuesday morning and she has nowhere to be until 5:30 in the evening. She feels quietly good. After breakfast, Sarah opens her sketchbook. Not to draw, she has been using it more for writing lately. Lists, thoughts, things she is trying to figure out. She finds the page from yesterday, where she wrote down the changes she has made this week. She reads it back. Back up files every evening. Set aside $30 a month for tech. Cook instead of ordering. Running Tuesday morning. She adds one more line. No phone after 10:30 p.m. Then she looks at the list again. 5 things. None of them difficult. None of them requiring a gym membership or a meal plan or a major life decision. And yet, looking at them together, she can see something taking shape. She thinks about the times she has tried to change too much at once. 2 years ago, she decided to take up running, do yoga 3 times a week, and cut out sugar all in the same month. She lasted 12 days. By day 13, she was so tired and frustrated that she stopped everything. Take up. To take up something means to start a new activity or hobby, to begin doing something regularly that you did not do before. She took up photography as a way to slow down. He decided to take up cooking after moving into his own apartment. It's never too late to take up a new skill. Cut out. To cut something out means to remove it from your life completely, to stop doing or consuming it entirely. She cut out caffeine after 6 in the evening and started sleeping better. He cut out social media for a month to see how it felt. The problem, she understands now, was not willpower. It was volume. She had tried to build a habit of running while simultaneously overhauling her entire diet and adding yoga on top. There was no room to breathe, and when one thing slipped, everything slipped together. Build a habit. To build a habit means to make something a regular part of your life through repetition, by doing it often enough that it becomes automatic, almost easy. Building a habit takes time. It cannot be forced. She built a habit of writing every morning by starting with just 5 minutes. The key to building a habit is to make it small enough to do on a bad day. She closes the sketchbook. She has a few hours of work ahead, then an errand, then the community center at 5:30. The community center is 2 blocks from Sarah's apartment building, a low brick building with a green door and a small hand-lettered sign in the window, English Conversation Practice, Tuesdays, 5:30, 6:30. All welcome. Sarah has been volunteering here for almost 3 years. She does not teach grammar or assign homework. She just sits at the table with whoever shows up and talks about the week, about language, about whatever comes up. Sometimes 7 people come, sometimes 3. Tonight there are 6. She knows most of them by now. Rosa, who works at a dry cleaner's on 5th Avenue and is saving to bring her daughter from Oaxaca. The Chen brothers, Wei and Liang, who arrived 8 months ago and are still surprised by how cold Brooklyn winters are. Mr. Beaumont, who has lived in the neighborhood for 22 years, but wants, as he says, to speak with more confidence. And 2 newer faces, a woman named Fatima and a young man whose name Sarah has not caught yet, who sits quietly and listens more than he speaks. Sarah pulls up a chair, sets her bag down, and asks the question she always asks to open. What happened this week? Anything good? Anything hard? Anything you are thinking about? Liang says his restaurant changed his schedule again. Rosa says she found a cafe near her building that sells Mexican pastries, and it made her feel, for a moment, less far from home. Mr. Beaumont says his knee has been bothering him, but he has been walking every evening anyway, because he read somewhere that movement helps more than rest. That's actually what I want to talk about tonight, Sarah says. Small changes. Things that seem too small to matter, but they do. She tells them about her week. The running, the cooking, the budget, the early bedtime. She does not make it sound like a success story. She makes it sound like what it is. A few deliberate choices made by someone who got tired of burning out. Burnout. To burn out means to become exhausted, physically, mentally, or emotionally, from doing too much for too long without enough rest or recovery. When you burn out, you cannot continue at the same pace. She burned out after working 7 days a week for 2 months straight. He took a week off because he could feel himself starting to burn out. Burnout is a sign that something in your routine needs to change. She asks them, has anyone made a small change recently? To their health, their sleep, their routine? Rosa says she started walking to work 3 days a week instead of taking the subway. It takes 20 extra minutes. She does not love the cold, but she has been sleeping better. Mr. Beaumont says he cut out the television at night. He watches the news at 7, then turns it off. Before, I was watching until midnight, he says. Now I go to bed at 10. I am a different person in the morning. Fatima says she started making time for a proper lunch break, sitting down, away from her desk, even just for 20 minutes. Before, I eat at the computer, she says. Now I sit at the table. It is a small thing, but I feel better. Make time for. To make time for something means to deliberately set aside time for it, to treat it as a priority rather than letting it get pushed aside by other things. She made time for a walk every evening, even on busy days. It's easy to say you're too busy. Making time for rest is a decision. Sarah listens to all of them. Then she says, I think the reason small changes work is because you can actually do them. You can go for a 10-minute walk even on a bad day. You can't always go to the gym for an hour. The young man who has been quiet for most of the session looks up. Consistency, he says carefully, trying the word. Is that the word? Yes, Sarah says. That is exactly the word. Consistency. Consistency means doing something regularly, without stopping, showing up for it again and again over time. A small action done with consistency is more powerful than a large action done once. Consistency is more important than intensity when building new habits. She did not see results immediately, but her consistency paid off over time. The hour passes quickly. By 6:30, people are gathering their bags and coats. Rosa thanks Sarah at the door. Mr. Beaumont says he will report back next week on the knee. The young man pauses on his way out and says carefully, Thank you. I learned something tonight. Sarah walks home. The walk back is 10 minutes. The June evening is still bright at 6:45, the sky a pale blue over the rooftops. Sarah walks slowly, no headphones, hands in her jacket pockets. She thinks about what Mr. Beaumont said. I am a different person in the morning. One small change, no television after 7, and he became a different person in the morning. Not instantly, not dramatically, over time, quietly, in the long run. In the long run. This phrase means over a long period of time, when you look at the full picture, not just today or this week. In the long run, small, consistent actions produce results that single large efforts rarely do. It might be harder now, but in the long run, it will be worth it. Small savings add up in the long run. In the long run, consistency matters more than speed. She thinks about the young man saying consistency, the way he reached for the word, tried it, got it right. She thinks about Fatima sitting down for lunch, Rosa walking to work in the cold. All of them are making a lifestyle change, not a challenge, not a temporary effort, a new way of doing something, chosen deliberately, held on to patiently, a lifestyle change. A lifestyle change is a permanent adjustment to how you live, a shift in habits or behaviors that you intend to keep, not just for a week or a month, but as part of who you are going forward. Quitting smoking is a lifestyle change. She didn't go on a diet. She made a lifestyle change. A lifestyle change takes time to feel normal, but eventually it does. Sarah gets home at 6:55. She heats up leftover rice from the night before, adds a fried egg, eats at the kitchen table. She does not open Instagram. She does not check her email after 8. At 11:10, she gets into bed with a book. She reads for 20 minutes. The words slow down as she gets closer to sleep, and then she's reading the same sentence twice without understanding it, and she knows that is the signal. She puts the book on the nightstand. She turns off the lamp. In the dark, she thinks, this is what it pays off to. Not a dramatic transformation, not a before and after. Just Tuesday night, the lamp off at 11:30, a book on the nightstand, running shoes by the door for tomorrow. Pay off. When something pays off, it produces a good result after a period of effort or patience. The payoff is the reward that comes from doing something consistently over time. All those early mornings finally paid off when she ran her first race. The habit of saving money paid off when the unexpected expense arrived. Consistency pays off, not immediately, but eventually, without fail. She closes her eyes. Today, Sarah ran in the park at sunrise, made breakfast at home, wrote a list of small changes in her sketchbook, and spent an evening at the community center talking about exactly those changes with people who are making their own. Nobody overhauled their life. Everyone just kept going, a little more deliberately than before. Let's review today's vocabulary. Routine. A set of actions you do regularly, in the same way. Take up. To start a new activity or hobby. Cut out. To completely remove something from your life. Build a habit. To make something regular through consistent repetition. Burn out. To become exhausted from doing too much for too long. Make time for. To deliberately set aside time for something important. Consistency. Doing something regularly without stopping over time. In the long run, over a long period of time, when the full picture becomes clear. A lifestyle change, a permanent shift in how you live. Payoff, when effort produces a good result, often after a long wait. These 10 phrases are for talking about health, habits, and how people grow, slowly, quietly, without announcements. Tomorrow is day 28. Sarah has been spending a lot of time alone this week, running, cooking, thinking. Tomorrow, she thinks about the people who have shown up for her, the friends and relationships that have made her life in Brooklyn what it is, including one who changed everything. 3 days left. I will see you tomorrow. The people who change your life the most are rarely the ones who gave you the best advice. They didn't tell you what to do. They didn't solve your problems or hand you a plan. They just showed up, again and again, in the small moments and the hard ones. And somehow, that changed everything.
Friendships are one of the most important topics in any language, but in English, they can be difficult to talk about well. Not because the words are complicated, but because friendship language is emotional, subtle. It involves memory, history, the things you feel but don't always say. Today, you will learn 10 phrases for talking about connection, loyalty, and the people who matter most. By the end of this episode, you will have real language for one of the most human conversations there is. Before we begin, I want you to notice something about what is happening right now. At A1, you learned words for feelings: happy, sad, nervous, tired. These were the first tools, single words for single emotions. At day 28, something different is happening. You are not just understanding the words in this story, you are understanding what they mean, the feeling behind a sentence, the thing a character almost says but doesn't, the weight of a silence. That is emotional comprehension. That is what listening fluency actually feels like in a second language, and you are doing it right now. This is what this series was built for. 30 days of listening, one story at a time, from A1 to B1. 2 days left. Let's not stop now. It is Wednesday morning. Sarah wakes up at 7. She lies still for a moment, looking at the ceiling. She is still thinking about last night, Mr. Beaumont saying, "I am a different person in the morning." Rosa finding the pastries near her building. The quiet young man who said, "Consistency," and got it exactly right. She thinks about the people who have shown up for her. Over 4 years, in a city that was not hers at first, and is now. She picks up her phone. There is a message from Maya from last night. "Hey, how was Tuesday? Haven't heard from you since the budget conversation." Sarah types back, "Really good, actually. Are you free today?" Maya, "Yes, come over at 10. We can cook something and take it to the park." Maya lives 6 blocks from Sarah, on a tree-lined street in Carroll Gardens, a third-floor apartment with tall windows, a vinyl record collection that takes up 1 full wall, and a kitchen that always smells like something good. Sarah has spent more time in that kitchen than in many restaurants. She arrives at 10:05. Maya is already at the counter, pulling things from the fridge. "Okay," Maya says, "we have bread, mozzarella, tomatoes, basil, 1 lemon, and what I believe is a mango." That's a very random combination. "That's what I have. We make it work." They have been making things work together for 4 years now. That is not a long time. And also, it is. In a city where people come and go, 4 years with the same person means something. They go back a long way, for Brooklyn standards at least. Go back a long way. This phrase means to have known someone for a long time, to share a history, a set of memories, a connection that was built over years. We go back a long way, before either of us knew what we were doing here. They go back a long way. Same neighborhood, same school, years of small shared moments. For people who go back a long way, no explanation is needed. Sarah takes the mozzarella and starts slicing. Maya squeezes the lemon. Outside the tall window, Carroll Gardens is doing what it does on Wednesday mornings, quietly, unhurriedly, belonging only to the people who live there. "Can I tell you something?" Sarah says. "Always," Maya says. "I was thinking this morning about when we met, the Bushwick thing." Maya laughs, a short, warm sound. "The record night. You said something at the end. You said, 'I feel like we have a lot in common.' I remember thinking I felt exactly the same, but I would never have said it first." Have a lot in common. This means to share interests, values, and ways of seeing things, to be similar to someone in ways that actually matter. We have a lot in common. The same taste in music, the same way of moving through a city.
When you have a lot in common with someone, conversation doesn't feel like work. I know, Maya says simply. She is arranging the tomatoes without looking up. That's why I said it first. The next day, Maya had sent a message. Hey, it's Maya from last night. Coffee sometime? Sarah had read it twice and typed back yes before she had time to overthink it. Reach out. To reach out means to contact someone, especially to make the first move, to close the distance between yourself and another person. You reach out when you want something to begin. She reached out the next day, which surprised him. It takes courage to reach out first, but it is almost always worth it. He had wanted to reach out for months before he finally did. Sarah thinks about what Brooklyn had felt like at that point, 3 months in, knowing almost no one. She had been fine. She had walked around, sketched things, found her coffee places, submitted freelance work from her desk. Fine was not the problem. Fine was just lonely in a way she hadn't admitted yet. You made me feel at home here, Sarah says, before I actually felt at home. Maya looks up. What do you mean? I mean, the city didn't feel like mine yet, but when I was with you, it did. Make someone feel at home. To make someone feel at home means to make them feel comfortable, welcome, at ease, as though they belong, even in a place that is still unfamiliar. It is one of the most generous things one person can do for another. She made everyone feel at home, even in a room full of strangers. He made her feel at home in the city within the first week. Maya doesn't say anything for a moment. She just nods and picks up the basil. They pack the food into a canvas bag. The bread, the mozzarella, the tomatoes, mango cut into slices, 2 small containers of olives Maya found at the back of a shelf. A blanket is folded under Maya's arm. Prospect Park is 15 minutes on foot. They walk slowly, the bag between them. The June afternoon is warm, but not heavy, the kind of day that feels like the city is doing its best. They find a spot under a large oak near the long meadow, spread the blanket, and sit down. Around them, a family with a small dog, 2 men playing chess at a folding table, a woman reading on her back with one arm over her eyes. The park is full, but not crowded. There is room to breathe. Maya opens the food. They eat without hurry. Do you ever think about the people we knew early on? Sarah asks. Like the first year? The ones who aren't around anymore? Maya thinks for a moment. Yeah, there were a few people I thought would be here longer. What happened? I don't know. They moved, or we moved, or we just stopped being in each other's lives. No big reason. We just drifted apart. Drift apart. To drift apart means to gradually lose closeness with someone, not because of a fight or a clear ending, but because distance, time, or different directions slowly pull you away from each other. It happens quietly, often without anyone choosing it. They had been close in university, but slowly drifted apart after graduation. Some friendships drift apart when life changes, and that is okay. You don't always notice you've drifted apart until you realize how long it's been. I think about that sometimes, Sarah says, why some people stay and some don't. I think it's about who shows up, Maya says, not just once, consistently. Be there for someone. To be there for someone means to support them, to be present and available when they need you. It is more than being physically close. It means being reliable, emotionally available, ready to listen without an agenda. She was there for him during the hardest year of his life. Being there for someone doesn't always mean knowing what to say. I don't need advice. I just need you to be there. A shoulder to lean on. This phrase describes someone you can go to for comfort and support,
a person who is steady and reliable when you are struggling. A shoulder to lean on is not someone who fixes things. They are someone who stays. She had always been a shoulder to lean on, never too busy, never impatient. Moving to a new city is easier when you have a shoulder to lean on. A robin lands briefly near the edge of the blanket, looks at them without interest, and flies away. Maya eats a mango slice. Sarah watches the family with the dog. The afternoon passes without either of them tracking it. They talk about nothing and everything, a film Maya has been meaning to watch, a fabric she ordered online that arrived completely wrong, a client of Sarah's who keeps asking for more variations, small things, the kind of conversation that feels like resting. At some point, Sarah says, "You know, you bring out the best in me." Maya tilts her head. "How so?" "I don't know exactly. You don't push me or give me speeches. You're steady, and that makes me want to be steadier." Bring out the best in someone. This means to help someone be their best self, not by directing or criticizing, but simply by being the kind of person whose presence makes better things feel possible. You don't force it. You make it feel natural. She brings out the best in everyone she works with. A good friendship brings out the best in both people. "That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me," Maya says, "and you delivered it like you were describing a thermostat." Sarah laughs, the kind that comes quickly and fully before you can control it. Maya always does that. No matter how serious the subject, she always finds the small door back to something lighter. Pick up where you left off. This phrase means to continue something, a conversation, a friendship, from exactly where you stopped, with no awkwardness or adjustment needed, as if no time has passed at all. They hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, but they picked up exactly where they left off. The best friendships can always pick up where they left off. They pack up around 4. The park is quieter now. The families with small children have gone. The chess players are still there. The light through the trees is lower and longer. Sarah rolls the blanket. Maya lifts the canvas bag. They walk back through the park in the direction of Carroll Gardens, talking less now, the comfortable quiet of 2 people who don't need to fill every space. Sarah thinks, this is what it means to have someone who means the world to you. Not the grand gestures, not the speeches, just this, a Wednesday afternoon, food from a Kansas bag, the right kind of silence. Mean the world to someone. This phrase means to be extraordinarily important to someone, to matter to them in a way that words do not easily reach. When someone means the world to you, their presence in your life is not small, it is foundational. She doesn't say it often, but her daughter means the world to her. You don't always tell the people who mean the world to you that they do. He didn't realize how much she meant to him until she was gone. They say goodbye at the corner of Sarah's block. Same time next week, Maya says. Same time next week, Sarah says. She walks home with an empty canvas bag and a full afternoon. Today, Sarah and Maya cooked together in Maya's kitchen, walked to Prospect Park with food in a canvas bag, and spent a Wednesday afternoon the way good friendships are spent, without agenda, without effort, without rush. Nobody gave a speech. Nobody said anything that wrapped up neatly, but things were said that needed saying. Let's review today's vocabulary. Go back a long way. To have known someone for a long time. To share a long history together. Have a lot in common. To share interests, values, and ways of seeing the world. Reach out. To contact someone and make the first move toward connection. Make someone feel at home. To help someone feel welcome and comfortable in an unfamiliar place. Be there for someone, to be emotionally present and available when someone needs you. A shoulder to lean on, a person who offers steady comfort and support. Drift apart, to gradually lose closeness with someone without a clear reason or moment. Bring out the best in someone, to help someone be their best self naturally and without force. Pick up where you left off, to continue a friendship or conversation as if no time has passed. Mean the world to someone, to be extraordinarily important to someone. These 10 phrases are for the conversations that matter, the ones about people, connection, and the quiet ways we build a life alongside others. Tomorrow is day 29. Sarah has been in Brooklyn for 4 years. She has her work, her routines, her people. And tomorrow, someone asks her the question she has been putting off. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? She doesn't have a clean answer, but she knows she has to think about one. 2 days left. I will see you tomorrow. Two days from now, this series will be over. Before we get there, before the last episode, we need to talk about the future. About the question that almost everyone has been asked, and almost no one answers honestly the first time. Talking about your future in English is harder than it looks. Not because the vocabulary is difficult, but because it asks you to be two things at the same time. Honest about where you are, and hopeful about where you might go. Today, you will learn 10 phrases that help you do exactly that. Talk about goals, plans, dreams, and the spaces in between. Before we begin, I want to say something about today. You are at day 29. That means you have made a decision to listen, to show up, to keep going 29 times. Most people who start something like this do not reach day 29. They stop at day 5, or day 12, or day 20, when the novelty is gone and the habit isn't quite formed yet. You are here, one episode from the end. That is not nothing. That is almost everything. This is the promise this series made on day 1. 30 days of listening, one story at a time, from A1 to B1. Tomorrow is the last day. Today, let's go. It is Thursday. Sarah is at her desk by 8:30. A new project landed in her inbox on Wednesday evening, a brand identity for a small architecture firm in Dumbo. Clean lines, neutral palette, a founder who writes thoughtful emails, the kind of project she likes. She works for 90 minutes without looking up. Coffee goes cold. She doesn't notice. At 10 o'clock, there is a knock at the door. Priya is standing in the hallway with a canvas tote bag over one shoulder and her keys in her hand. She is heading to the market on Atlantic Avenue. She stops whenever Sarah's door is unlocked. Want anything? I'm okay, Sarah says. Come in for a minute. Priya drops the tote bag inside the door and takes a seat at the kitchen table. Sarah makes 2 cups of tea, the same way she always does, the kettle left on a bit too long, 2 mugs with mismatched patterns. I've been thinking about going back to Mumbai for a few months, Priya says. Maybe February. See my family. Maybe figure out if I still want to be here, you know? Sarah looks at her. Are you thinking about leaving? I don't know. That's why I need to go. Priya wraps both hands around the mug. I've been here 4 years. I love it, but I've never asked myself properly whether this is where I'm going. I've just been going. She looks at Sarah across the table. What about you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself? This is one of the most common questions about the future in English. It asks you to imagine yourself at a future point in time and describe what your life looks like. It is not asking for a perfect plan. It is asking you to think out loud. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I see myself doing the same kind of work, but with more freedom. It's a hard question. I'm not sure where I see myself yet. Sarah opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. Priya laughs, not unkindly. Take your time. I don't know, Sarah says finally. I'm still figuring out what I want. Figure out what you want. This phrase means to discover, through thinking or experience, what you actually need or desire. It suggests a process, not a sudden realization, but a gradual one. You figure something out by paying attention over time. She spent her 20s figuring out what she wanted from her career. Sometimes you have to try several things before you can figure out what you want. Priya finishes her tea, picks up the tote bag, and says she will be back in an hour. Sarah stands at the door for a moment after she leaves, looking at the empty hallway. Then she goes back inside. She sits at her desk. The architecture file is open. She cannot look at it. She picks up her sketchbook, puts on her shoes, and goes out. She walks south, through the neighborhood, past the coffee shop on the corner, past the hardware store that has been there since before she arrived. Park Slope on a Thursday morning is quiet in the way only residential streets can be. No performance, no noise, just people getting on with things. She walks and thinks. 5 years from now. She tries to picture herself. What does that look like? She is not sure about the geography. She is not sure about the scale, whether she wants more clients, bigger projects, a studio with other people in it, or exactly this, the desk, the apartment, the work she chooses herself. Picture yourself. To picture yourself means to form a mental image of who you might be or what your life might look like in the future. It is an act of imagination and also an act of honesty. What you can picture often tells you what you actually want. Try to picture yourself 10 years from now. What do you see? She couldn't picture herself in that role, and that told her something. Picture yourself in 5 years. Does the image feel right? She thinks about the job offer from Nina, the creative director role at the Flatiron agency she turned down in June. She still thinks that was right. But the question, where do you see yourself, makes her aware that she has been moving forward without a direction she can name. There is a difference between moving and working toward something. She has been moving. She would like, she thinks, to work toward something. Work toward something. This phrase means to make consistent, deliberate effort in the direction of a goal, to let your daily actions be shaped by something you are trying to reach. You do not just move forward. You move in a specific direction, on purpose. She has been working toward building a client list she believes in. He worked toward his goal for 3 years before it happened. Working toward something gives your daily choices a kind of meaning, a long-term plan. This is a plan that extends over months or years, not what you will do today, but what you are building over time. A long-term plan does not have to be rigid, but it gives you something to orient toward. She didn't have a long-term plan when she arrived in Brooklyn. She made one slowly, out of decisions. A long-term plan is not a fixed path. It is a direction. She walks until she reaches the park. Prospect Park, on a Thursday afternoon in June, is different from the weekend. Fewer families, fewer blankets on the grass, more people alone with their thoughts. Sarah walks along the path near the boathouse, on the eastern side of the park where the lake reflects the trees, and finds a bench. She opens the sketchbook to a blank page. She does not draw. She writes. Not a business plan, not a list of goals with deadlines, just an honest inventory of what she actually wants, the kind you can only write when no one is going to read it. 5 years from now, Sarah Chen wants to have a client list she is proud of. She wants to have taken one more trip alone, She wants to have learned something new that is not design. And she wants to be a little less afraid of the big questions. She reads it back. It is not impressive. It does not have revenue targets or a 5-year growth strategy. But it is true. And truth, she has learned, is a better starting point than impressive. Set a goal. To set a goal means to decide on something specific you want to achieve and commit to working toward it. A goal is different from a wish. A wish is something you want without a plan. A goal is something you want and intend to move toward, one step at a time. She set a goal to finish the portfolio by October and kept it. Setting a goal does not mean you know exactly how to get there. It means you know where you are going. Small goals and large goals are both worth setting. She is not going to figure out 5 years in one afternoon on a bench in Prospect Park. She knows that. But she has just done something she has been avoiding for a while. She asked herself the question properly, and she wrote down something real. Take it one step at a time. This phrase means to approach something gradually, not to try to solve or achieve everything at once, but to move forward steadily, one action at a time. It is a reminder that large things are built from small things, done consistently. She didn't know how to start. Her mentor told her, take it one step at a time. You don't have to have everything figured out. Take it one step at a time. The only way through a difficult project is one step at a time. She closes the sketchbook. The lake is still. A heron stands at the far edge of the water, perfectly motionless. After a long moment, it lifts its wings and goes. She gets home at 4:30. The architecture file is still open on her laptop, exactly where she left it. She sits down, looks at it, and begins. The morning had felt stuck. The afternoon cleared something. Now her hands know what to do. She works until 7. Then she makes dinner. Pasta with the last of the tomatoes, the same ones she had bought planning to use days ago. She eats at the kitchen table, sketchbook on the surface beside her, closed. At some point, she picks up her phone and texts Priya. Thanks for the question today. I don't have an answer yet, but I'm thinking. Priya replies after a few minutes. That's the point. Sarah puts the phone face down on the table. She has not solved the question of 5 years, but she has made something, a small, honest thing on a page that did not exist this morning. That is its own kind of progress. Make progress. To make progress means to move closer to a goal, to advance in a positive direction. Progress is not always visible immediately. Sometimes it is internal, a shift in thinking, a question finally asked, a clarity that takes time to arrive but stays when it does. She felt like she wasn't making progress, but looking back, she had come far. Making progress does not always look like success from the outside. Move forward. This phrase means to continue, to keep going despite uncertainty, despite not having everything figured out. Moving forward is not the same as having a plan. It is the decision to keep going anyway, in the general direction of what matters to you. She didn't know exactly what came next, but she decided to move forward. Sometimes moving forward is the only thing you can control. End up. To end up somewhere means to eventually arrive at a place, situation, or outcome, often one you did not entirely plan. Where you end up is shaped by your choices, but also by chance, by the people around you, by the doors that opened and the ones that didn't. She didn't plan to stay in Brooklyn this long. She just ended up here, and it became home. He ended up in a career he never imagined for himself, and loved it. You don't always end up where you thought you were going. She opens the laptop. One more hour on the architecture brand.
Then she will close it and go to sleep. The sketchbook sits on the table. She does not open it again. She already knows what it says. Today, Sarah worked on a new project, answered a knock at the door, had tea with her neighbor, walked south through Park Slope, wrote a list on a bench by the lake, and came home. She did not answer the question, but she stopped avoiding it, and that is its own kind of progress. Let's review today's vocabulary. Where do you see yourself? A question about your future life asked at a specific point in time. Figure out what you want. To discover through experience and attention what you actually need. Picture yourself. To form a mental image of who you might be in the future. Work towards something. To make deliberate, consistent effort in the direction of a goal. A long-term plan. A plan that extends over months or years, giving your actions a direction. Set a goal. To decide on something specific you want to achieve and commit to it. Take it one step at a time. To move forward gradually without trying to do everything at once. Make progress. To move closer to a goal, even when the movement is not immediately visible. Move forward. To keep going despite uncertainty, not because everything is clear. End up. To eventually arrive at a place or situation, planned or not. These 10 phrases are for the conversations no one is ever quite ready for, the ones about where you are going, what you are building, and who you want to become. Tomorrow is day 30, the last one. I will see you then. Friday, the last morning of June. Sarah wakes up before her alarm. Again. In English, some of the most important conversations happen in two directions at the same time, looking back at where you have been and looking forward at where you are going. Today, you will hear both. 10 phrases for reflection, recognition, and the quiet courage it takes to begin again. Before we begin, I want you to notice something. On day 1, you pressed play on a story you were not sure you could follow. The words came quickly. The sentences were long. You had to concentrate. Today, you are not concentrating. You are listening. There is a difference. Concentration is effort. Listening is trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the language, trust that your ear knows more than you think. You built that. 30 days, one story at a time. From A1 to B1. This is the last one. Let's not rush it. It is Friday. Sarah wakes at 6. She lies still for a moment, not thinking about anything in particular. Just the ceiling, the light coming through the curtain, the sound of a bus somewhere outside. She does not pick up her phone. She makes coffee slowly. The kettle, the mug, the window. Brooklyn is still quiet at this hour on a Friday, the kind of quiet that belongs to the people who live here, not the ones passing through. She stands at the window with both hands around the mug and looks out. She thinks about the first time she stood at this window, 4 years ago, the week she moved in. She hadn't known anyone yet. The city felt enormous, and she felt very small inside it. She had stood at the same window with a different mug, the one she broke the following winter, and looked out at the same street. It is the same window. She is not the same person. She puts on her shoes and goes out, not to run, just to walk, the way she used to when she first arrived, when walking was how she learned the shape of things. Look back on. To look back on something means to think about a past experience from where you are now, with more knowledge, more distance, more understanding than you had at the time. Looking back on something is not the same as being stuck in the past. It is a way of seeing the distance you have traveled. She looks back on her first year in Brooklyn and barely recognizes herself. Looking back on it now, she understands why she was so afraid. He looks back on that decision differently now, with more patience than regret. Come a long way. This phrase means to have made significant progress from where you started. It does not have to be dramatic. It can be quiet, a slow accumulation of days and choices that, seen from a distance, adds up to something real. She has come a long way since that first week. It's easy to forget how far you've come when you're focused on how far you still have to go. You've come a long way. Give yourself credit for that. She walks south. Park Slope on a Friday morning is not the same as the weekend. The streets are quiet in a residential way. Someone watering plants on a stoop, a cat sitting in a window, the sound of a school somewhere nearby that has not yet filled with children. Unhurried, belonging to itself. She walks without a destination. The route takes her past the hardware store that has been there since before she arrived. Past the corner where the bodega has the best coffee if you don't mind the paper cup. Past the entrance to Prospect Park, where she turns in without deciding to. The park is almost empty. Just a few runners, one man walking a large dog, a woman on a bench with a thermos. The grass is still wet from the night before. The light comes through the trees in long, uneven columns. She walks slowly and lets her mind settle. Appreciate. To appreciate something means to recognize its value, to see it clearly, to be grateful for it. Often, we appreciate things more clearly in retrospect, when we understand what we had. But sometimes, if we are paying attention, we can appreciate something while it is still here. She appreciated the quietness of the park in a way she never had before. He didn't appreciate how good things were until they changed. Part of growing up is learning to appreciate ordinary things. Take stock of. To take stock of something means to assess it honestly, to stop moving for a moment and look at where you are, what you have, and what still needs attention. It is a way of making the next step more deliberate. She took stock of the year and felt, for the first time, that it had been a good one. It helps, sometimes, to stop and take stock of everything you have built. Before moving forward, he took stock of what he actually had. She thinks about the month that just passed, not reviewing it item by item, but feeling the shape of it. The laptop that broke on a Tuesday night, the budget she had to rework, the community center, Maya's kitchen, and the park on Wednesday. Priya's question, the list in the sketchbook she wrote on a bench by the lake. It had been a full month. Not easy. Full. Let go of. To let go of something means to stop holding on to it, a fear, a habit, an old version of yourself that no longer fits. Letting go is not the same as forgetting. It is a decision, sometimes quiet, sometimes slow, to stop carrying something that is no longer useful. She had let go of the idea that she needed to have everything figured out. Some things you let go of all at once, others you release slowly, without noticing. Letting go of the past doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you are ready for what comes next. She finds a bench near the south end of the long meadow and sits down. She opens the sketchbook. She does not write a list. She draws. Just the trees in front of her, the ones at the edge of the meadow, the light coming through them, the shape of the path that curves to the left and disappears. Her hand moves quickly, without thinking too much. A few lines. The feeling of the place more than the exact detail. She hasn't drawn just for herself in a while. Most of her drawing lately has been for clients. Precise, purposeful, answering a brief.
This is different. This is just her hand, and the trees, and the morning. She looks at what she has drawn. It is not a great sketch, but it is true. Be proud of. To be proud of something means to feel a quiet, honest satisfaction in it, not arrogance, but recognition. You can be proud of work you did well, a choice you made with integrity, or simply the fact that you kept going when it would have been easier to stop. She was proud of the portfolio she had built, not because it was perfect, but because it was hers. Be proud of how far you have come. It did not happen by accident. He was proud of the small things, the daily ones. Those are the ones that add up. Grow as a person. To grow as a person means to develop in ways that are internal, to become more patient, more self-aware, more honest, more capable of handling what life brings. It is not always visible from the outside. It often happens quietly, over years, in the spaces between the things that seem important. She had grown as a person in ways she couldn't have predicted when she arrived. Growth doesn't always feel like growth when it's happening. The hard years are often the ones that help you grow the most as a person. She looks at the trees. The light is different now than when she sat down. A little higher, a little warmer. A Friday in June becoming itself. What matters most? This phrase describes the things that are genuinely important, not the urgent things, not the loud things, but the things that remain valuable when everything else is stripped away. Knowing what matters most is something most people spend years learning, and then spend more years trying to remember. She had spent a long time doing things because she thought she should. Now she was learning to ask, does this matter? Is this what matters most? When things got difficult, it became easier to see what matters most. He rearranged his whole life around what matters most, and it took a long time to figure out what that was. A small wind moves through the meadow, the kind that comes and goes without reason. It lifts the corner of the sketchbook page. She puts her hand down to hold it. She looks at the drawing again. Still true. She closes the sketchbook. The park around her is filling slowly. More runners, a few cyclists, someone with a yoga mat. Friday moving toward itself. She gets up and walks home. It is 8:30 when she turns onto her block. Brooklyn is awake now. The bodega has its shutters fully open, the smell of coffee drifting out. A woman is carrying 2 bags of groceries up a stoop. A dog is sitting on the step, watching the street with great seriousness. Sarah walks slowly, no hurry. She thinks about what she is carrying forward from this month. Not the budget, not the new client, not the checklist in the sketchbook. The other things, the quieter ones. That showing up at the community center on a Tuesday evening matters more than it looks. That a Wednesday afternoon in a park with food in a canvas bag is not a small thing. That Priya's question, where do you see yourself, is worth sitting with, even without a clean answer. That she has come a long way, and that she is only at the beginning of what comes next. A new chapter. A new chapter is a new phase of life that begins after something else ends. It does not require a dramatic change or a clear plan. Sometimes a new chapter begins quietly, with a Friday morning walk, a closed sketchbook, a decision to keep going in a direction that feels right. She thought of it as a new chapter, not a reinvention, but a continuation with more clarity. Every ending is the beginning of a new chapter. She wasn't sure what the new chapter would look like, but she was ready to find out. Carry something with you. To carry something with you means to take it forward, not as a weight, but as something valuable. A lesson learned. A person who changed you. A version of yourself you want to keep. You carry it not because you are stuck, but because it belongs to who you are now. She carried the memory of that year with her, not to relive it, but because it was part of her. What do you carry with you from the hard times? The best experiences are the ones you carry with you long after they end. She gets home, makes breakfast, eggs, good bread, coffee that is not from a paper cup. She sits at the kitchen table. The sketchbook is beside her, closed. She opens her laptop. The architecture project from Dumbo, almost finished. She works. Today, Sarah woke before her alarm, made coffee slowly, and went for a walk. She walked through Park Slope, into Prospect Park, and sat on a bench near the long meadow. She drew the trees. She walked home. She made breakfast and opened her laptop. A Friday, the last morning of June, a day that asked nothing dramatic of her and gave her something quiet in return. Let's review today's vocabulary. Look back on, to think about a past experience from where you are now with more distance and understanding. Come a long way. To have made real, significant progress from where you started. Appreciate. To recognize the value of something clearly and with gratitude. Take stock of. To stop and assess honestly where you are and what you have built. Let go of. To stop holding on to something that no longer serves you. Be proud of. To feel quiet, honest satisfaction in something you have done or kept going with. Grow as a person. To develop internally, in patience, honesty, and the capacity to face what life brings. What matters most? The things that remain genuinely important when everything else falls away. A new chapter, a new phase of life beginning, quietly, after something else ends. Carry something with you, to take something forward, a lesson, a memory, a part of who you have become. These 10 phrases are for the mornings when you stop moving long enough to see where you are, for the moments when you look back, not to stay there, but to understand the distance, and for what you choose to carry forward. Before this ends, I want to say something to you. You showed up 30 times. That is not small. Most people who start something like this, a habit, a journey, a commitment, stop somewhere in the middle when the initial energy fades and the finish line is still far away. You did not stop. Trust that. Trust what you have built. Not because the road ahead is easy, but because you have already proven something about yourself. You can go the distance. Sarah's story ends here, on a Friday morning, a sketchbook in her hands, a city that is finally hers. But your story with English does not end. It opens. What you practiced in 30 days of listening is a foundation, and foundations are not endings. They are the beginning of everything else you can build. At English Journey Studio, we will be here. The next chapter, the next story, the next 30 days. We will walk alongside you. This journey is difficult. It is also extraordinary, and you do not have to walk it alone. You started this series on day 1. You are here now, on day 30. Sarah's story is over, but your story with English is not. You have spent 30 days listening to one voice, one story, one city, and something has changed in the way you hear, the way you understand, the way English moves through you. That is yours now. Carry it with you.